voters are fast-moving.
Unlike other big rallies,
Bit earlier at about 7 a.m. A group from
Welcome to #PHVote 2013.
Today on Rappler, Senator Chiz Escudero slams the Justice Secretary for submitting the Napoles list to the Senate. The Philippines is ready to implement the law against drunk driving. And the woman in Sudan is sentenced to death for converting from Islam to Christianity. Hello, I'm Chai Hofalenia. Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. Senator Chiz Escudero slams Justice Secretary Leila de Lima for submitting the controversial Napoles list to the Senate. In a TV interview Friday, Escudero says de Lima should have demanded a sworn statement from Napoles. He appeals to de Lima to not fall for Napoles' attempts to muddle the issue. De Lima says she did not want to submit the list without the affidavit and what she called a vetting and verification process, but Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chair TJ Gingona insisted the list be submitted Thursday. De Lima says she hopes Gingona exercise more prudence in handling the controversial list. Earlier, de Lima wrote to Gingona and asked the list be kept confidential until the submission of a narrative backing it up. Her request was apparently denied when copies of the list were immediately distributed to members of the press. In a related story, Senator Miriam Santiago cries foul over her inclusion in whistleblower Ben-Hur Luis' list. She says Luis' former lawyer Levito Baligod is behind the release of the list. Santiago says, quote, "If there is any justice in this world, lawyer Levito Baligod and his backers should be drawn, quartered, and their severed heads hung from the highest Rizal Park flagpoles." There are 4 known lists of corrupt legislators involved in the pork barrel scam. De Lima's list reportedly came directly from Napoles. Panfilo Lacson's and Sandra Cam's lists allegedly came from, quote, "unimpeachable sources," and the 4th from Louis. Philippine and U.S. officials formally closed the Balikatan 2014 War Games Friday. Thousands of troops from both the Philippines and the U.S. participated in the War Games, which included maritime security exercises in beaches facing disputed waters and disaster response exercises in typhoon-hit areas. The War Games this year also saw the participation of Australian troops for the first time. This year's Balikatan happens shortly after the Philippines and the U.S. sign a new defense deal before U.S. President Barack Obama's visit in April. The deal was prompted by the Philippines' request for U.S. assistance in the wake of escalating tension with China over claims in the West Philippine Sea or South China Sea. With the defense agreement, future war games are expected to be more sophisticated. In his speech, Philippine Military Chief General Emmanuel Bautista says the complexity of the security environment, quote, presents challenges that no nation or armed forces can face alone. Bautista earlier named 3 military bases that can be offered to the U.S. troops: a naval detachment in Oyster Bay, Palawan, a naval station in San Antonio, Zambales, and Fort Magsaysay, an army base in Nueva Ecija. The Philippine Police and other law enforcement agencies are ready to implement Republic Act 10586, or the Anti-Drunk and Drug Driving Act. The Drunk Driving Act was signed into law in 2013. It allows law enforcers to imprison and fine drunk or drugged drivers. Violators face a maximum 20 years jail time plus a 500,000 peso penalty. The minimum penalty is 3 months imprisonment and a 20,000 peso fine. Transportation Secretary June Abaya says the new law sets the allowable blood alcohol level at below 0.05% for most motorists. Drivers of public utility vehicles, trucks, and motorcycles are not allowed to have any amount of alcohol in their blood. Holders of non-professional licenses also face a 12-month suspension for the first offense and a perpetual revocation for a second offense. State-run Chinese newspaper Global Times backs the use of, quote, non-peaceful measures against Vietnam and the Philippines Friday as it considered the possibility of war in the South China Sea. The Daily says, quote, the South China Sea disputes should be settled in a peaceful manner, but that doesn't mean China can't resort to non-peaceful measures in the face of provocation from Vietnam and the Philippines. Many people believe that a forced war would convince some countries of China's sincerely peaceful intentions. China claims almost the whole of the South China Sea. The Philippines provoked its fury by seeking international arbitration in its dispute, while Vietnam is experiencing its worst anti-China unrest in decades, following Beijing's deployment of an oil rig to disputed waters. A judge from Sudan sentences a pregnant woman to hang for converting from Islam to Christianity Thursday. The woman, named Maryam Yahia Ibrahim Ishag, is convicted under the Islamic Sharia law, which outlaws conversions. She is also charged with adultery for marrying a non-Muslim man. Speaking to an Islamic religious leader, Maryam defended herself, saying she did not commit apostasy or the renunciation of her beliefs. She says, "I am a Christian and I never committed apostasy." One of Ishag's lawyers says the defense will seek to overturn the ruling with a higher court. Ishag's death sentence triggers a series of protests from locals to Western embassies expressing deep concern over her case. Sudan's Information Minister Ahmed Bilal Osman says Sudan is not unique in its law against apostasy, citing Saudi Arabia as an example. A mountaineering group in Tanay leads the way in youth empowerment. With 230 active members, Tanay Mountaineers is the official disaster response team of the Tanay Municipal Government. David Lozada reports.
This 22-year-old regularly trains in disaster response and search and rescue management. Roxanne Hernandez believes it's her responsibility.
Kung hindi natin bibigyan ng pansin yung issue na to, hindi rin mauunawaan, kumbaga hindi magiging aware yung mga tao kung ano yung pwedeng maging epekto sa kanila ng mga pangyayaring ito sa ating bansa.
Roxanne is a member of the Tanay Mountaineers, or TM, a non-governmental organization focused on disaster risk reduction and environmental protection. The group started as a youth volunteer and mountaineering organization in 1997. Because of their expertise in rescue, first aid, navigation, and survival operations, they became the official disaster response team of the Tanay Municipal Government. Tanay is prone to various natural hazards like floods and landslides. To answer the need for better disaster response and mitigation, the local government taps its youth to promote disaster resiliency and climate change adaptation in the different barangays. Tanay lacks high-tech disaster response equipment, but the local government invests in community-level preparedness and mitigation, tapping TM and the youth for these efforts. Tanay DRRM Chief and TM Founding Chairman Carlos Inofre says the partnership between the local government and civil society is key.
Na-utilize nila yung mga NGO dun sa area. Kasi ito yung dito namin talaga effectively na-train yung community down to the household level. So we combine our resources. Kaya sa tingin namin, disaster resilient na yung Tanay.
TM trained the town's 20 barangays and local law enforcers in responding to multiple hazards. Most of TM's operations are run by its young members.
Yung youth kasi, kung titingnan natin, yan yung mas may time, yan yung mas may capacity in terms of physical, mental, and intellectual capacity. Yung youth, yung kung titingnan natin, sila yung mas matatap natin nowadays para maging aware yung community pagdating sa mga gantong issues.
Tanay's example shows the lack of equipment and budget need not cost lives, and that community preparedness is the best way to adapt to disasters. Tanay Mountaineers will keep training the next generation of Filipino lifesavers, hoping to see a more disaster-resilient Philippines. David Lozada, Rappler, Tanay Rizal.
Let's now look at Rappler's Wrap for today, a list of the 10 most important events around the world you shouldn't miss. At number 7, with just 4 weeks left before it kicks off, the World Cup in Brazil faces a test of its security preparations as people protest the cost of the event. Protesters say the $11 billion Brazil spent on the World Cup could have been spent on transport, education, housing, and healthcare. Although most demonstrations were peaceful, police used tear gas against a group of masked demonstrators in Sao Paulo as tensions rose. At number 8, U.S. scientists believe cancer can be cured by a single vaccine shot. A potent dose of engineered measles virus is shown to have completely wiped out a woman's cancer. The patient was diagnosed with a kind of bone marrow cancer and given a dose of measles virus selectively toxic to myeloma plasma cells. The patient experienced some side effects such as severe headache early on, but the tumor on her forehead soon disappeared and her bone marrow cleared. And at number 9, Google receives a series of takedown requests after a European court rules a citizen could ask the tech giant to remove irrelevant and outdated search results. The BBC reports requests include a former politician running for re-election asking to remove links to stories about past behavior, as well as a doctor who wants negative reviews from patients deleted. For the full top 10, visit Rappler.com's The Wrap. Indonesia's communications minister Tifatul Sembiring moves to ban video sharing website Vimeo.com because of pornography. This puzzles Indonesian internet users. Indonesia's communications ministry releases a list of keywords said to be used in Vimeo to search porn. Vimeo spokesperson Jessica Casano Antonelli says the site does not thus allow nudity in some non-sexual and creative contexts, but doesn't allow pornography. Vimeo acknowledges Indonesia's official request Monday on Twitter, a day after the ministry imposed the ban. Vimeo did not elaborate on the nature of the ban. Indonesian daily The Jakarta Globe says Sembiring is a staunch anti-pornography crusader and has sought to tighten government control over the internet since he took office. Every story on Rappler has a mood meter, which gives you 8 emotions to choose from. Click how you feel and your vote comes down to the mood navigator in the middle of the front page, which crowdsources the mood of the day. It also gives you the top 10 stories with the most clicks. Let's look at tonight's top stories. If you look at the mood navigator, there are a lot of red circles, huge red circles. Let's start here on the left side. This is one story which has the title Philippines shows destabilizing China moves in Spratlys, which gets 91% angry and upset, 3% annoyed, 3% strangely happy, 1% inspired, 1% amused. A related story is actually something that was used in our wrap for today, and this is a photo showing China's destabilizing moves in the Spratlys. It's basically the same story. Another related China story is the China paper backs non-peaceful steps against Vietnam. But if you look at, despite the red circles here, there's a huge big green circle right in the middle. This is a story, this is an opinion piece by the Chief of Staff of Budget Secretary Butch Abad. This is entitled Butch Abad, My Mentor. This got 67% inspired, 17% annoyed, 8% amused, 4% angry, 2% happy, and 2% don't care. Despite the number of red circles, the number of people who voted inspired for this particular story outnumbered the rest who voted angry. That makes up for today's dominant mood. Today, most people are inspired. That's Rappler's newscast for today, Friday, May 16, 2014. Visit Rappler.com and watch our newscast Monday to Friday. Tell us how you feel on our mood meter and help us crowdsource the mood of the day. I'm Chai Hofilenia. As we say at Rappler, tomorrow begins today.